Be sure to check out my BitChute channel, where I'm currently receiving hundreds of times more views than on my censored YouTube channel proportionally. The link is below.
So I literally think I'm having a flat earth epiphany right now. That's why my friend here decided to pull out the camera, because they're literally like all the puzzle pieces just crystallize in this very moment. And I'm having one of those, like, you know, it's like one of those, it's what happens when you have like a high IQ and you're like a skeptic and you actually start to be like pro-science. You have an incredible awakening and you realize that the globe is like, it's a a retarded, stupid thing for like a low IQ rednecks. Like, literally you have to be like retarded to think you live on a spinning ball. But you know, we can go into how the low IQ and the overall stupidity leads people to think they're on the globe. But for now, we're going to stick with the high IQ side, the skeptics. You know, if you're a skeptic, we're going to stick with the skeptic side for now. But I think, and I would have been recording this myself, by the way, but my friend pulled out the camera. So I think I'm actually having a flat earth breakthrough. I've been going into this topic now for years. And I've always been super skeptical. I've always been very hesitant to just go all into the flat, because I'm like, I got to make sure that this is, you know, backed by evidence and backed by reason. And I think finally all the puzzle pieces were just collapsing into my fucking my psyche right now. And I think I just had an epiphany, and I was almost crying because I saw how the deception works and how high IQ skepticism leads you to flat, not the low IQ redneck globe. What really solidified it for me right now, literally brought tears to my eyes, was, you know, they talk about how, you know, Aristotle, for example, you know, he wrote in his treatise on the heavens, he wrote how, well, as you travel north or south on our sphere, the constellations, the stars, will appear and disappear behind the horizon. So Aristotle, he concluded, well, we must live on a sphere. If they're disappearing behind the horizon as you move north or south, it must be because we live on a sphere. But the problem with that is that doesn't take into account perspective. You know, if you look at clouds in the sky, the clouds that are closer to you will appear higher altitude, but the ones that are further away will appear as if they're lower in the sky. But that's not necessarily true. The clouds may all be at the same altitude, but because of angular size and perspective, things that are further away appear lower. Like when you look down a long hallway and there's ceiling lights above your head, they're going to appear lower further away, but they're not actually lower. It's just how angular size and perspective works. Angular size and perspective could be a perfect explanation for why Aristotle saw constellations appearing to rise and fall.
Holy crap, guys. Can you see that? The Earth is freaking cat. Check them out, guys. The brand new The Earth is Cat t-shirts are now available. I'll put a link to them in the description below.
Alright, when you look down a long hallway, is the ceiling descending in altitude and you have to like scrunch down by the time you get to the end for like midget people? No, the ceiling is going to be the same height no matter how far away you get. The same thing with stars. But the problem is, how do you diminish the effects of perspective? How do you diminish the effects of something in the distance appearing to be low? Well, you make things really far away. Like the stars and the sun and the moon. They say the moon is 238,000 miles away. They say the sun is 93 million miles away. They say the stars are billions of miles away. How do you rob human beings of the ability to see stars descending as they move back and forth across Earth? How do you rob human beings of the ability to say, well, those stars are just descending because I'm moving further away from them? How do you rob them of that? You tell them the stars are so fucking far away that movement back and forth is going to have little effect on how it moves. It's called parallax. The further away something is, the less it, like as you're driving down a road and there's trees next to you and there's mountains in the distance. You'll see a gazillion trees move by before you'll see the mountain move even like a speck. That's called parallax.
So that's what they've done. That's what they've done. They've literally robbed the human beings of the ability. Because, see, they tell you the stars are super far away, which minimizes the effects of perspective via parallax. And they tell you that the stars are really big. So obviously if it's really far away, well, if it's small, you won't be able to see it if it's really, really far away. But if it's gigantic, like they tell you the sun is... What did Bill Nye say? Bill Nye said, in his old show, Bill Nye the Science Guy, he said 1 million Earths fit inside the sun. So obviously, if you want to diminish the effects of perspective, like let's say the North Star, as you get to the equator, the North Star, because see, that seems to be what these assholes have done. So as you get to the equator, according to mainstream heliocentric model, the North Star descends closer to the horizon. And then if you get into the southern hemisphere, the North Star, you won't be able to see it anymore because the sphere of the globe, because you're on the underside and the other side of the globe, the North Star just disappears behind the northern horizon. It's just gone because you're on the other side of a ball. So that appears to be what they've done. They have turned the natural effects of angular size, perspective, parallax, they've turned the tendency of things to appear to descend in the distance and then compress into the horizon line, which is always at eye level, the horizon line, and then eventually it's so far away it disappears out of your field of view, because anything that's too far away will disappear. There's not enough pixels. It'll disappear out of your sight. They've hijacked, they've hijacked that effect, and they've ripped it out, and they superimposed it on a ball model, on a globe model. And then, instead of when you move closer to the equator, the North Star appears to get closer to the horizon. Instead of that being just because of perspective, because the more you move, the lower it's going to appear, it's not perspective. It's you going around the edge of a ball. And then once you get to the equator, it's disappearing because you're coming around a sphere and the sphere is now blocking your view of it. So, again, the only way that you can pull that off, the only way that you can remove perspective is to say that the North Star is really big and really far away. So everything they do is to try to back up ad hoc. Everything they do is an ad hoc explanation to stuff the globe with good arguments. It's a presupposition. Since the days of fucking Pythagoras, they wanted to believe they live on spheres. Goddamn, Pythagoras said that the reason he thought we lived on a sphere, Pythagoras is attributed as being one of the first people, if not the first, to say we live on a sphere. He's often attributed in history as being the first one to say we live on a sphere. Pythagoras came, according to Wikipedia, unless the Wikipedia page was hijacked and someone filled this in falsely, according to Wikipedia, Pythagoras said we probably live on a sphere because I think spheres are perfect objects. He was obsessed with spheres. And the gods, if the gods, plural, atheists, take that one, atheists. You guys are all about science and there's no need for a god and all this shit. But that guy who conceived the sphere didn't just believe in one god. He believed in gods, plural. He said since the gods are perfect, the perfect gods would make us live on a perfect shape. And Pythagoras thought the sphere was the perfect shape. So these assholes for centuries have been desperately trying to prove we live on a ball. desperately trying to prove we live on a sphere, and they'll take anything they can to prove that. So what freaking if it turns out that the globe model, what they've done is they've hijacked perspective, and this is not really anything new. I've heard a lot of similar ideas when you're looking into the Nathan Oakley Flat Earth Debate Show. Check them out. Can't recommend it enough. They've talked about how perspective is hijacked in the curve calculators, all this stuff. But it seems what they have to do to minimize the effects of perspective, they have to push the stars and the sun and the moon, the celestial heavenly bodies, they have to push it all far, 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 far away, and also make them really, 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 really big. And that's how they've hijacked the whole damn thing. And it gets really crazy because it's such a perfectly convenient thing. If the globe really is a deception, and it really is a tool of elitist control and domination, everything works perfect. Number one, listen, here's what's funny. They say we live on a ball, right? They say we live on a globe. They say we live on a freaking globe. But they've had to push everything far away. Literally, the floating heavenly bodies. I mean, the closest thing that we have to God. I mean, these incredible celestial bodies floating around in space. They've had to push all that shit away. So far away that it almost seems it's intangible. It's almost like they're pushing God away. They're pushing creation away. And I've never been pro-religion. I'm not like a Christian or anything. But for me, it's all about how the high IQ skepticism has led me to these conclusions. It's not that I just want to believe. It's that the science and skepticism and being high IQ and not being like a low IQ redneck with like globes. It's like really low IQ. We got to go high IQ and skepticism and pro-science. And if they are trying to hide creation, if they are trying to hide God, isn't it ironic that not only do they have to push the stars and the celestial heavenly bodies far, 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 far out of ways? It wasn't made for us. They don't circle around us. They're not for us. It's all fake. It's all just coincidence and blowing up out of a fucking Big Bang for no reason. But also think about how when they pushed it all away, because it seems like they have to push the celestial bodies away in order to explain, in order to get rid of perspective from the equation. You don't need perspective when the heavenly bodies are far, far, far away. But conveniently, and I know that was drawn out, but here's the point. Conveniently, when you live on a sphere, let's say that the flat earth model with the ice wall is real, and there actually is an edge. Let's say there's a finite edge. Let's say that around the edge there's a firmament, or some transparent invisible barrier we can't pass, like in a video game. When the creators of a video game program the video game simulation, what happens when you reach the edge of the map a lot of times? There's just an invisible wall. An impenetrable, invisible wall you can't get past. Well, if this whole thing that we see here was created by a creator or a programmer, this simulation was created, then what if there is an edge? What if at the edge of the South Pole, the Antarctic ice wall, as some flat earthers put it, what if there is an invisible dome barrier that you can't get past? That's God, ladies and gentlemen. I've explained it in prior videos. I won't get into it here because I'm probably about to run out of memory, but that's God. When you come face to face with an impenetrable, invisible wall barrier to your reality, you are coming face to face with God. Call it a programmer, call it the creator of this simulation, if you want to go Elon Musk with it, whatever the hell you want to call it. So it's incredible how the whole deception works together in unison. The globe, they have to push the celestial bodies away. So that perspective, your own God-given sight and ability to see things subjectively, they had to push the stars away and then put us on a globe. And not only that, when they put you on a globe, they push God away. But when they put you on the globe, You don't bother to find the edge. So they once again push God away. Because you don't bother to find the edge. When you think you live on a ball, I'm just going to end up right back where you started. There is no edge on a ball. So they push the stars away. God is gone. You live on a globe. Well, don't even try to go look for God. Don't even go try to look for the edge. Because you're going to end up right back where you started on the globe. And let's say there is no edge. Let's say it's an infinite plane and there's more land and resources. Then the globe model, once again, works perfectly for those interests. Because again, if we do live, hypothetically, on a flat earth, but we've been lied to deliberately, because again, to quote Aristotle, the mark of an educated mind is to entertain an idea without accepting it. This is Aristotle, literally the guy who provided the first guy to have the 4 major proofs we live in a ball. Technically it was 3 because mainstream education has misappropriated one of the 4 proofs. It actually was by someone else who came later, but they are attributing it to Aristotle when, according to his treatise on the heavens, he only cited 3 actual main proofs. It wasn't 4 of these ships disappearing bottom up. That was not Aristotle. He doesn't mention it, at least, in On the Heavens. The guy who came up with the 3 major proofs we live in a sphere, he himself is attributed with the quote, "The mark of an educated mind is an entertaining idea without accepting it." That's literally what flat earth investigations is all about. So take it from your little King Glober, okay, Glober guys? Let's say that there is no edge. Or let's say there's no edge, there's no dome, there's no invisible wall, barrier, whatever you want to call it. Let's just say it's an infinite plane. Or let's just say that there's more land than they're telling us. And they're trying to keep that from us because we're just a little tax stock being parasitically fed off by all the world's governments via taxes. All the governments, all the main governments of the world who signed up for the Antarctic Treaty, where you're not allowed to go out there and investigate and explore Antarctica. Basically, damn near impossible to just go do it. You can't just go do it because science and the environment, and don't step on the penguins. Some absurd bullshit like that. So, let's say, because all these nations signed up for the Antarctic Treaty, so many of them, all the ones that matter. Let's say there is an edge. There is no edge. Or let's just say it's bigger than we're told. Or let's say it's an infinite plane. Okay? The globe works perfectly for those interests too. Because the globe, you live on a sphere, there's no edge. Why you go even explore? You're going to end up right back where you started. You need a fucking rocket ship to go anywhere else. But the globe has multiple effects. Because if you're an elitist who wants to keep people dumbed down, and you want to parasitically leech taxes off of people and oppress people and control people, you don't want them believing in a God. You don't want them believing in a spirit. You don't want them believing that there's a transcendent sense of self that will endure beyond any earthly torture, prison, negativity, war, fears, etc. You don't want people believing in a spiritual thing. You want them dumbed down cogs in a physicalist machine making somebody rich, sucking energy off of them. Again, the globe model works perfectly for those interests. You push the stars and the heavens away. Nothing revolves around us. You take God out of people's souls. You take the soul out of people's bodies, and they're just hamsters in an economic rat race on a spinning ball, on a hamster wheel, spinning, 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 spinning. Don't sit still. Don't calm down. Don't relax. Don't get grounded. The very soil beneath your feet is ricketing and rocketing and spinning. It all works perfectly for those interests. So I'm running out of memory on the camera. I got to seal this off, but I literally just had this epiphany crystallization. Am I officially a flat earther yet? I'm getting closer and closer because I'm a big fan of high IQ, pro-science skepticism, and I'm really tired of being a low IQ redneck hanging on desperately to his ball. We're going to take your ball away, and you might get a little triggered and you might start crying, but it's okay. Little boy, it's okay. Wrap that shit.
Holy crap, guys. Can you see that? The Earth is freaking cat. Check them out, guys. The brand new The Earth is Cat t-shirts are now available. They come in a variety of shirts and colors. I also got some great mugs available. Sweater hoods. Get yourself one of these The Earth is Cat t-shirts. I'll put a link to them in the description below. Get one from yourself right now.
fight back against YouTube censorship by supporting me on Patreon. You'll also get access to exclusive, never-before-seen videos and other perks like monthly Google Hangouts with me, free books and t-shirts, and more.